All right, folks, let's get started. Welcome to Microsoft Agent Framework office hours for Wednesday, June 24th, 2026. For all questions on Microsoft Agent Framework, as well as semantic kernel and autogen. I've got the engineering team here with me to answer your questions. As always, we do this meeting every week at 8 a.m. Pacific. And just FYI, these meetings are recorded and posted online after the fact. The other thing I'm going to start doing a little more regularly, a reminder, I know there are a few Microsoft internal folks on the call. Just a reminder to everybody that this is a public call. If you are from Microsoft internal, feel free to engage. We love that. We love to have the community involved. But if you are working on a project that is not yet ready for public disclosure, you can reach out to us privately for that if you need support. Without further ado, I think I've gone over this. So yeah, we do every week. We have this call as well as monthly for APAC. This week, in terms of new news, I think Jose is going to come on and talk about a project he's been working on. But first, before I do that, I want to quickly plug a couple of blog posts. I don't know if Wesley's on the line, wants to talk about these. I'll tee them up while he's getting ready, if he's here. Let me share my screen. Here. So on the Agent Framework blog, we're starting a short series on using Agent Harness to build a clause. And in case you're kind of not familiar with the term clause, or use one of the many hundreds of other definitions of clause out there, the way we kind of interpret clause on the Agent Framework team are agent harnesses that respond and to external actions via kind of traditional user input. So like they're constantly running and waiting for input and doing work for you. So of course the canonical version of a clause, OpenClaw, but there's other clause out there like Hermes becoming very popular, as well as kind of claw-like features getting built into things like GitHub Copilot and Claude Code. We're doing a series to kind of talk about Agent Harness and how you can use it to build your own claw from scratch using a Microsoft Agent Framework. Wesley, would you like to add anything on here? I'll just open up the articles. There's two that have been posted so far. This one's actually the first one here. We plan to do about 4 of them. And I think the first one is out as well as this intro one, so I guess 5 in total. And this kind of runs you through how to use Agent Framework to build this type of application. And again, not necessarily to replace something like GitHub Copilot or Claude Code, but if you want to build and deploy something like this at scale, or just understand how they work and integrate pieces of them into your application, this is how you do it with Microsoft Agent Framework.
So yeah, I can talk about it briefly if you want.
Thanks, Wesley. Yeah, a couple minutes.
Let me just share my screen. So yeah, so as Sean was saying, I've got the first post out. The part 2 will follow shortly, and it's taking you step by step through a process of building a finance clause. Essentially, it starts with a very basic start with like a get stock price tool, web search and planning. And shows you how to get there. Obviously, you'll all be familiar with constructing your chat client, and then you've got your instructions. And I think it's good to call out that there's 2 sets of instructions when you think about a harness. There's the instructions that power the harness itself, that's built into it. That's combined. That's essentially a combination of all of the features from that harness, rolled up into the harness. So it has a lot of it has a lot of things built in, like dealing with modes and planning and all this sort of stuff, and that's built into the harness itself. Then you've got your instructions that make the thing your own. And in this case, it's all about personal finance, of course. And there's .NET and Python examples here. And then we've got our custom tool. And then, very familiar to all should be that, you can say chatline.as harness agent, or in the case of Python, create harness agent, start with your chat client and pass in your instructions and your tools, and off you go. And as I mentioned last week as well, we've got like a harness console that is in the samples that you can use to actually run this. We've got the sample code here for this one, and some examples of what you can try out, switching to different modes, asking questions about your stocks, getting prices, getting recent news, updating your watch list, asking it to review your watch list and recommending stocks. It also talks about saving and resuming sessions. The console app has some built-in functionality that just takes a session and serializes it. This is core agent framework functionality. It just calls that serialized functionality and saves it to a JSON file, which allows you to then resume the session again later if you want to. And it goes into how planning works, which is quite interesting. I think if you're building your own type of experience like this, where you want to have an experience where it kind of comes back with well-defined questions with options that you can pick from, or freeform, which you might all be familiar with from other CLIs. And the way that we do it is essentially when the client knows that the agent is in planning mode, it will change the request that it sends to the agent to use structured output, and specifically it'll expect a planning response type, and it kind of forces it to choose whether it wants the agent has to choose between clarification or approval modes, and provide questions with options, with choices. This allows, this forces it essentially into this experience whereby the agent has to go, okay, I want clarification, or when I'm done with that, can you approve or deny the request? And there's also, of course, examples here of how to switch off all of if you don't like any of the built-in harness features, you can switch them off using disable settings. And here's the actual sample code links. And this is also very valuable. You can, of course, use any of these building blocks in your own agent. You don't have to use the harness agent. Like planning, can be done using the agent mode provider. To-dos can be used using to-do provider. And then there's search tools as well. And next up, we'll look at, it should be done by next week, hopefully a lot sooner anyway. We'll talk about file access, approvals, which is not just approvals, of course, we have had that for a long time, but things like auto approvals and don't ask again functionality, and file memory and Foundry memory and a couple of other things. So yeah, it's something to look forward to for next time.
Yeah, thanks, Wesley. And I think a couple of things. One, obviously, like we've got these articles out there, and we'll keep posting those. But the samples and code are available in the repo. Either I'll drop a link, or Wesley, if you have them handy, in the chat, so you can go ahead and use all this functionality, and maybe have some spoilers for the next few articles. But you can build all this functionality today. In fact, that'd be fun. If you had time, is go try and build it and see if what you build is as good as what Wesley ends up publishing in the blog articles over the next week or so. But anyway, something to try out. Again, we're pretty excited about Agent Harness and some of the capabilities. I'll take a couple questions if they're specifically on Agent Harness and on these articles. but more general questions we'll save for a little bit. Raj, do you have a question?
Yeah. So, like, when you're using harness, all the things that you showed on the web search and things, do they come turned on, or is it something that you say, okay, I want to use the harness and I want like a turn the web search on, for example. So by default, all the tools that are built into harness becomes available and it makes decision to use them by default?
Yeah, great question. I mean, that's the philosophy. You know, the philosophy for Agent Framework, or sorry, for Agent Harness is really around batteries included. So we try and add as much as makes sense into the Agent Harness initially, and then you can opt out of things. And obviously, you can also add other stuff as well if there's tools that you need. Wesley, anything you would add to that?
Sure, yeah. So I think the only exception really is cases where you need configuration for something to
Yep.
work. I think the Code Act, for example, you have to provide the execution mechanism that you want for it to be enabled. There might be one or two others, but most of them come with smart defaults. So for example, file memory is on by default and it has a default folder, which is basically current working directly / file memory or something that it uses for storing memories. And same with like file access, it's current working directly / working that it uses. You can change any of these things if you don't like that as a default. But you can also turn off the feature if you don't like it, what it does, or you want to swap it out, or you just don't want it that for your specific agent. And if you want full customizability, you can also, of course, build something similar just on top of a check-client agent with fully custom. But all of the features we have are public. They're not unique to Harness.
The analogy I like to use is around like Lego bricks and how this fits together with our traditional agent model and agent loops and workflows within agent framework is around Lego bricks. Is if you think of agent frameworks as had Lego bricks and you can build them and build whatever you want with them and configure things. Agent Harness is pre-built, but still configuration. I'm not at home right now, I'm at the office, but if I was at home, I'd bring out one of my like Lego transformers and be like, look, you can play with it like right now and you can do some things and you can customize it, or you can build it from scratch from the bricks. And Agent Harness is really about kind of giving you that transformer, that figurine in Lego that you can use to do stuff right off the shelf. But because it's built out of Lego, you can configure it, you can add things that you want, and provide overrides. That's really the philosophy that we're going after with Agent Harness.
So if, like, for example, the web search, right? Is that using now Microsoft's Bing agent? And what are the cost implications when you turn this on and then it plans and it kind of uses that? Or are you able to customize whatever that web search is that maybe, I have my own search.
Yeah.
How customizable are those built-in tools?
So, even with web search is something that costs money. You'll need credentials in order for web search itself to work. But it is configurable. You can connect it up to our Bing search, which I think is now called WebIQ. And you can connect it to those services within Foundry and within Azure, or you can connect it to your own services as well and override that. And then in terms of behavior of when to use it, I mean, that's another one where like we'll put in some of the default prompts of like when to use web search, and the model will kind of figure it out too based on the task you give it. But again, that's something you could override and say something like, never use web search unless you really have to, or prefer local search. That's another one, is you can restrict the domains that you can access from the web as well when you're actually accessing search results, and that can restrict things as well.
But where do you go and configure that web search tool? Like, okay, the built-in comes out, but where do I go and say, okay, I want to use Tavili, for example, or something else? or is it doable? Or if I use Harness, everything, the built-in tools are all default and they're all kind of pre-configured.
So just on web search, what we're using is the built-in web search that comes with the inference service that is there. So so basically, like if you're using Foundry responses, it comes with its own web search built in, and that's the one that we enable. And OpenAI has a similar one as well. But if you don't want to use that one, you can switch it off and you can provide your own web search tool that does what you want it to do, or connects to the service that you prefer.
Okay, so the harness itself is customizable, where I could go and add a new web search tool and make it part of the harness and disable the out of the box. Is that?
Yeah, exactly. So the harness supports, just like chat client agent, it supports you passing in your own tools, your own AI context providers, etc. It comes with a whole bunch of these built in, but you can switch off all of them if you don't want specific ones, and then you can add your own overrides as well.
I think that's Wesley. I think it's a good idea for an example. I'm just looking through the examples now, and while we have like an override for web browsing, I don't think we actually show how to configure the web search to a custom search, which I think would be an interesting one because like you said, Wesley, like we use the default one, which is Bing grounding under the covers in the case of Foundry models. But I think it would be good to show an example because it's kind of built in. I think it may not be obvious that we can override it. So that's probably a good thing for us to add to a sample or two in the samples we have.
Sounds good, yeah. I see Rasmus had a point there as well.
Yeah, I think great question. I think that's why we want to kind of continue to have both of these cases where you can configure stuff directly and explicitly, and also you can kind of leave it up to the framework to upgrade your tools. Like in theory, like all things is like, if we upgrade the tools, you could get some goodness. Maybe we fix a security vulnerability in the file access tools, or maybe we add a new capability. Hopefully that's generally what it is. But I mean, like you said, like there is a risk to doing that, and that's why you can continue to use regular agents where you're explicitly adding all of those things. And even within the harness, like you could explicitly turn it off and then add it back in with your own custom implementation as well, if you want to do that and keep it static that way.
I would also add that, I mean, we'd have to really think carefully about what we add after we release this feature. At the moment, it's experimental, and but we're hoping to release soon. And adding something can also be a breaking change, of course, and we try and avoid breaking changes. So we'll have to think about, if we do add something that is on by default, what implications that may have, and whether that's considered a breaking change. So we wouldn't just add things without considering it carefully.
Yep.
So I had one more question. So this harness, one thing I liked was the plan mode, right? So, but without harness, if we didn't use harness, is it possible with the agent out of the box to say, hey, I want you to first do the plan mode, and then I make the intervention to execute the plan? Is that possible, or only with harness that you have that mode capability?
It is absolutely possible to enable this feature on its own. I'll just share my screen again. As I was mentioning, if you want to use the building blocks on the blog post, it talks about where to find the individual building blocks. So if you want planning, you can add the agent mode provider. It's available in .NET, in Microsoft Agents AI, and in Python Agent Framework Core. Let me just show you very quickly. I'll share the C# one because I'm more comfortable with that typically. But This provider is an AI context provider, so you can add it to any chat client agent. It comes with 2 default modes, plan and execute, but you can actually, via options, supply your own modes as well. If you don't like the 2 modes that are there, you can set your default mode. You can give different instructions as well to the custom modes that you provide, but by default it'll come with plan and execute, and it comes with some standard instructions as well that essentially explains how to use the mode, how to deal with modes and instructing the agent in that. And then it just comes with features that allow the agent to switch mode. It comes with methods that you can call yourself to set the mode or get the mode, which is used by the console application that we have, for example, in order to show in the UI what the current mode is, or flip the mode if you type in /mode space execute, to switch the mode. And it has some code around, notifying the LLM what mode it's in and passing in the right instructions depending on the mode and so on. So yeah, this is totally available, outside of harnesses as well if you want to use it directly.
Thank you.
I'll just grab a couple of the questions here on the chat. I think kind of heading backwards a little bit with Edward's comment, which I completely agree with, is one of the advantages and kind of one of the reasons why open source frameworks and stuff are still make sense in this world of agents is it does give you a default that you can use. You can build your own. You can have your own agent, your own coding agent, your GitHub Copilot or Claude Code build it for you and have an example of the code of how we built it and effectively fork it, from there with your own custom implementation. And then as we add new features to it, you can bring those to your fork or not, and same with all traditional open source software development. So I do think that's kind of a big advantage and something that I really like about these client-side approaches versus the server-side approach for things like this, especially things that are somewhat dangerous. Like there's always a little bit of security through obscurity if you handle it in the service, but kind of having it in the open and have people be able to have their own implementations or remove parts that they feel are too worrisome or dangerous for their implementations, I think is a huge advantage of a client-side approach through a framework like this.
Yeah, something that
go ahead.
Something that I was going to maybe put in a later post as well is just a reference to the fact that the code here for the harnesses are not complicated. About half of this file is comments, and it's only about 350 lines for harness agent on C# and similarly on Python. The create harness agent method is not super complex. It just takes all of the defaults and assembles it together in an opinionated experience. So it's very easy for you as well if you want to just check out this code and use that as a template to build your own if you really want to do your own thing, which is perfectly fine as an option. I'll place this in the chat as well because I know this group is full of power users, so they love they see something cool and then they're like, oh no, but I want to build it myself. So
yeah, the jealousy, right? I get that too. I'm like, oh, I wish I'd built this all the time. I want to respond to Jose's comment, which I like, about Planner. There's a meta comment here. There's a joke internally at Microsoft here where we sit down and we're designing something new, and we kind of at some point we say, oh, we're reinventing Calm here again. And if you don't remember, Calm is the common object model that probably predates most of us being alive. But it's something that kind of in my history here at Microsoft comes up again and again, where we try and rebuild something that has been built already. And Jose's point around bringing back the planner, yeah, kind of, and it's kind of interesting that we're already at the point now with AI and agents where we're starting to reinvent things that we've already built and dismissed. One of the reasons we dismissed the planner was because the ability to call tools got built into the models and performed better than the planner ever did. So we kind of stopped development on the planner. And now, yeah, it's coming back, and maybe it's cyclical. Maybe some of this stuff will start getting moved into some of the frontier models. We'll see. Yeah, Essential Com. Thanks, Michael. Actually, my first boss at Microsoft was a guy named Charlie Kindle, and he wrote the forward to that book. And Don Box was someone I worked with a little bit when I worked in Windows in a brief stint. Okay, we're having a bit of some flashbacks and PTSD about Com in the chat. Com was great. I'd love that. The Essential Com book is actually a great book to read just for like computer history. Because the first half, if I remember correctly, basically talks about how C++ is terrible and they did it all wrong. And then the second half is like, here's how to do it properly with Com. And so you can definitely feel the tension from Don Box, who is the writer. Okay, enough of those digressions. Yeah, so hopefully that covers most things on Harness. And yeah, I mean, good comment, Jose. We were thinking about some declarative stuff. I was chatting with some folks the other day. We like, oh, we actually did this already in semantic kernel, and now in early days of semantic kernel, and now we're bringing it back. Okay, so let's move on here. We can do more questions afterwards, but I want to give Jose's on the call this week, and he has a project that he's been working on. Jose's been kind of a friend of Agent Framework and semantic kernel for a long time, and has done some great things. I won't belabor any further. Jose, if you want to spend maybe 5 or 10 minutes talking about what you built and showing it off, go ahead.
Yeah, of course. First, thanks to Ben for inviting me to present this. Let me take this and show my fantastic background. Now that I have one, I'm going to share my screen. Can you hear me well? Hello? Can you hear me well, Sean?
Yeah, Jose, sounds great, loud and clear.
So you see and hear. Can you see my
screen?
screen?
Math Doctor, tell
Beautiful.
us more.
Okay. Yeah, the first thing is I have a beautiful presentation, and before anybody says anything, I know the logo is the old one. I love the old logo. I know that probably you're forced to change the logo.
New logos are on the GitHub website if anyone's looking for them.
Yeah. I mean, Rasmus sent me, hey, you have to change the logo. When I publish about Math Doctor.
It's okay. Well, by the time you update, we'll probably have a new logo again too.
Yeah. But I will probably update it. I try to make it nice because I care for the logos, and I was pretty happy about the previous one. But yeah, let's go for Math Doctor. I don't think I have to explain you what math means, right? So it's basically a tool I've been working for a few months already to get into MCP technology more seriously, and it is 3 things in one. That it's a .NET Global tool, MCP server, and of course it's also open source MIT project that helps for diagnosing, making diagnosis, hardening, and migration toolkit for the Microsoft Agent Framework. So it helps you to alleviate this pain that I had with building Agentable. That means every 1 week or 2 weeks, I had to dedicate 2, 3, or 4 hours to upgrade everything and update all the code and ensure that everything is working because there were breaking changes. Who has been here in the same shoes as me? Oh my God, it changed again and there are breaking changes. I need to change everything and make sure that I'm using the best practices. And who is in? Ashraf, come on, you have this button here, React. You can click, you can say thumbs up or I've been there, or use the chat. Yeah, basically, Microsoft Agent Framework does not update itself. Now it's a lot better since it went GA, but to me, it has been somehow of a pain since the beginning when I was doing this Agent Eval. I'm still doing that. And I decided, hey, I will build something that can also update itself and help you to migrate. That was the initial idea. Now it helps you to diagnose, tell you if you're using a bad practice, prescribe what you have to do, and finally, do it for you, which I like. I'm lazy, right? So that's it. The problem is math is moving fast. You guys, Sean, Ben, Wesley, Roger, everybody of you are doing a fantastic job. But the outcome is that you are shipping breaking changes. You are doing a lot of changes. Uh, yeah, yeah. There's sometimes breaking changes. Not everything is GA. There are obsolete APIs peeling up. Migration at the moment is manual, and bugs compile clean, but then it runs not clean, right? Then basically is you can install it. It's a .NET tool. You install it as global, Math Doctor, and there you have a MCP server with 26 executable tools, CLI, and a plugin for steering, right? And there is a project which uses Roslyn for doing very quick Roslyn analyzer for some very concrete MAF issues, and also it can fix them for you very quickly as well. At one piece, you have it as a nugget where you can install it. You can also run it as a Docker. You have this package for the analyzers I just mentioned, and there is some skills and agents on it, but they are inside the Math Doctor. What it can do, it can catch bugs that compile clean. It can check TCS 0618 for real obsolete API usage from the compiler. And help you in scoring your math installation. And it provides a fully agentic loop. Now that loop is the word, it does it with your compiler to Studio. It provides deterministic fixes, not guesses, and it keeps its own knowledge current. So usually MAF has these cadence every more or less 2 weeks, unless there's something important to release. And you usually release usually end of day today for you, and for people that live in Europe, probably it's Thursday morning or Thursday along the day, right? Okay, so catches the bugs that compile clean. For example, this fan out, fan in, silent starvation, where these parameter is not send or not receive, and sometimes it produces no output and it dies there, and nobody knows what's happening, right? So I had these last year in November, December. It checks some compiler ground truth for this CS0618, and it's this fan in thing that I mentioned. It checks it and tells you, hey, you have this, and gives you one health lecture. That's where the doctor part comes in. It tells, hey, you are F, or you are B, or you are A, right? It's kind of a grade on how healthier are you in the usage of MAF. Are you using the best practices? Yes or no? I know that's biased, but at the moment it's checking that it's using the things properly, that you are not using, or your code is not using anything which is labeled as obsolete. I'm using a very nice project that goes into which is built by one of you, one person from Microsoft. It's .NET Inspect. It's a super, super cool tool to check as well the obsolete elements or functions that are being used. And it gives you a full report that you can act on it. Or you can tell it, hey, make me a plan and act on it. Some more things. The MCP surface, it has 26 tools, and each tool is narrow, very strict. I can show them in a moment. And it provides also these math autofix all. It can scan your code, and also it can provide a scan for upgrading on the math as well, and can do some reporting as well for doing that properly. The full agentic loop has 3 parts, which is audit, migrate, and also the hunt stragglers to find problems that you may have lingering in your code, and then automate the fix and implementation for you. So it's a way to have your code as shiny as possible, so easy. And now I'm a question to you. How many of you have looked for, how do I do that? Oh, damn, this implementation is using math 1.2 or 1, or previous time it's 0. Whatever, or 1.33, right? So this helps you to take that code, migrate it automatically with some usage of tokens, and do that for you. You can use it as natural language or with prompts or a CLI. I really like the lazy one. Is basically asking him or it to, hey, do this for me, right? There's some roasting analyzers. I'm not going to jump on these. And also we come to the nice part. I think I had a talk with one of your previous colleagues, Jacob Albert, on self-healing systems. He gave me a couple of ideas, and I implemented that. So basically, it launches a CI pipeline every Thursday, checks if the math version has changed, takes it, analyzes the latest NuGet package, and then does. I have some templates that I ask, hey, Copilot, fill these templates. And then I have a PR that adds the support for the next version of MAF. That's it, which I think is pretty cool. And yeah, also I put a lot of effort in security. So you can find inside the code some best practices on MCP securing MCPs. So I'm a firm believer of this is a new attack surface. We should do as possible to shield it. So I run it against the Cisco MCP scanner, which is open source and free, and acted upon it. And I also implemented all the different best practices, which I recopilated from different sources. So I can say it's pretty up to date and kind of as secure as an MCP can be. So I'm protected against supply chain execution, workflow input injection, command injection via tool arcs, etc. So everything is documented, but basically I apply the defense in depth. So protocol level, repository and CI, and anchor to the canon using OWASP MCP top 10, which I'm also covering. The best thing is to do .NET install global math doctor, or I can also show it to you. Before I show it, there is any question? No?
I want to see it. I want to see it running. Let's do it.
Yes, nice. So first thing is you can go to the website, right? There is a nice logo, the old one, but I love it. Math Doctor. You can go and get the latest release in NuGet, which is here. I release it not too far away in time. Sorry. And then, come on. If I'm here, let me minimize these and make these a bit bigger. Here I install it right away. So you can do a .NET Tool update or .NET Tool install -- global math doctor. You can check the version. I'm on the latest one, right? And once you have these, you do math doctor init, and it will install some files. The files is agents, some instructions for how to use it from your source repository. It installs for if you use Copilot, Claude, or Cursor. It installs some instructions. Let me make it bigger. And it installs these math instructions as well, which are specific. This is not destructive, so this will check first if this part is in, and if it has changed, update it, and otherwise leave it there. So it's just appending to it if it's not existing. So this is as less intrusive as it could be. And then what we can do is, hey, I have here in the repo. So what is here, this is inside MCP itself. So some agents, and then some instructions, some scripts and skills. This is the .NET Inspect, which I think is gold, is one of the things that shape these very well. And there's some other that support this. The other thing which is interesting is here on the autopilot, the analyzers, of course, there are tests, and here is everything if you're curious about the code on Math Autopilot. And the other thing which is interesting is the security on the threat modeling if you are curious, right, on the threat model. How did I approach to secure that? If anybody is into security, I'm happy to receive feedback. I think, and here I did this document for anybody curious on security best practices, which I think it's pretty good. And then finally, the security that explains how this has been hardened, if anybody here is curious. But going to that, I have as well some samples, which I can go to math 1.3 sample. And the only thing I can do here, I need to do once I have installed, is to enable Math Doctor and all the tools. Now it's enabled, and I can tell, hey, this Math Doctor, and what can it do? So that's the lazy way to use it, and the one that I like the most. CP server explains agent framework, lifecycle, helps you audit, fix, migrate, and okay. So let's use it, right? It explains what does it, how does it migrate. So I'm going to tell it math 1.3 in I have math to analyze it and score it. Tell me what do you find? I'm telling you to assess this one. This one, if I did not mess it, it should give a great F. Yeah. Seven errors. So great F. Okay. So this is what internal is giving in a nice markdown table, which you can get it. And it tells you here. Health grade is F. Migration risk hard, score 21 out of 21. So it's full in purpose of issues, right? So it's using some things that are still working 1.3, but it's not good to use. So it has a fan out starvation issue, threat unsafe session state, well, things you don't want to find in your MAF implementation. So to fix it, can you plan fixes in nice document? Also, there's something that I implemented today, thanks to Daniel Costea. Daniel Costea, I don't know if he's here. I gave him the link, but he's probably maybe working or busy. He has been using it. He's writing a book on MAF, and yeah, I think he used it to upgrade all his samples, and he's giving me some nice feedback, right? So one thing was to that he wanted the full scope. So these all showing all them is thanks to this feedback. So I'm also listening to feedback. If anybody wants to use and provide feedback, you can reach me by LinkedIn easily, right? So let's see how this works. In a nice document, also, I also tell it here to grade issues, and I added the triage part, which will provide some scores because sometimes it was giving some false positives. So if you use it and you find it, let me know. So it's using internally some part that you saw here, right? So what it's doing here is using Roslyn first, and then it's building the project and figuring out the issues based on checking out the output of the build, right? That's two things. It's doing this. I create in samples migration plan. Okay, I didn't ask it to do that, so I wanted a fix, but I guess it thinks, oh, this is all. Let's do all together. Okay. And then migrate. I'm very, as I live in Switzerland, I'm very stubborn and I like, hey, first we fix everything and then we migrate. Remediation plan document. Okay, it understood me. Technically, it should have done that, but I needed to steer it out of fixable max. So it's now running these instruction. Some things it needs judgment because it's quite a bias depending on what the user wants to do. And this is the changes I added recently. I'm going to allow it. So this is the Roslyn. That's one of the things. It will fix a few things, but it's only 5. This is automated and done with Roslyn, right? And now it's checking the rest because the rules are mostly semantic. So one thing, what it's doing is these guides, which is mostly migration guides from what's breaking on each release, what's new on the next one. So it's up since 1.3.0 basically. But in anyhow, it's able to bring everything to the latest and greatest, which is 1.10 so far. These are automatically populated. I can show, for example, the latest one in a bit nicer way. Meanwhile, it is working. So this is a bit on the delta from 1.6 to 1.10. So they can be applied one by one. And here is some deep summary using this tool I mentioned, which is .NET Inspect, which is basically fantastic. Some extract of release notes, the changes, breaking changes, new patterns.
Hey, Jose, I'll just interrupt you real quick, since we have
Yes.
about 10 minutes left. If folks have sort of more general math questions, please put them in the chat and we'll get to them async. And then if folks have any questions here on Math Doctor, please raise your hand and Jose can take them while he's here. Otherwise, keep going, Jose.
Cool. So not too much. Now it's time for it to work. So this takes a bit of time. I use it quite a lot for my upcoming LinkedIn Learning course on Microsoft Agent Framework, and it worked really flawlessly, ready on the previous versions. Yeah, I know that Daniel is using it for updating his code to the latest and greatest. And maybe some folks here want to try it out. Rasmus, have you tried it out? Are you still here, Rasmus?
I'm here. No, I haven't tried it out because I honestly think that Codex can do all this by itself, to be honest. And there's not really been any breaking changes lately. So
That sounds like a
no.
challenge, Rasmus. If you want some breaking changes, we can help you with that if you want. I was wondering if this might work, Jose, as helpful for migrating from semantic kernel or other frameworks as well, or is it focused mostly on math?
We can work on that. I mean, it's an open source, so
Yeah.
you can check it and we can think how we can make it work. I think you have a guide, so if that's okay with you with this guide, I could try to add it and add a new functionality for doing that. Do you mind if I take your guide for migration and add it to?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, go for it with that. I think the other thing I think is interesting here that folks should think about, I think if you've done a lot of effort here, Jose, on like securing MCP and some security best practices, I think that's something that's kind of sorely missing in the community in general, is how to secure MCP, how to use some of these agent tools and secure agents. So I think that'd be a very interesting thing also, folks, even if you aren't using Math Doctor directly, to take a look at it and look at it as kind of a best practice for how to build AI applications or applications that are using AI tools.
I think it's important. I mean, if you are building software for whoever and you don't care about security, go ahead. I build this because I was thinking in using it in the company I work for, in a project for upgrading it and using it because I would challenge that as well because I disagree with Rasmus because sometimes if you read the documentation, it's not fully up to date. It does not show the latest and greatest, and a lot of times you don't know if a method you're using is using an obsolete one. You should upgrade and use the newer one. These kind of things usually go unnoticed unless you check for them, and Map Doctor is helping you to check for them. Yep. So
Cool.
far, it's good.
Yeah, go.
Yeah.
If anything else, Jose, I think that's great. Just looking through the questions, a couple in the chat you can take a look at. But thanks for sharing this. I think folks should definitely go check it out. Drop a link in the chat too. I'm not sure if you did yet, Jose, on where folks can find this to take a look. Love to have folks share what they've been working on and what they've built with Agent Framework. If you are interested in having a couple minutes during office hours to talk about things you built, just reach out directly to me, and we can find some time. Happy to do that and have you share with the community. Going through the chat in the last couple minutes, a couple questions I see here. A question on M365 integration. And there's a follow-up here. Where is it? From Rich, asking about M365 integration. Saying learn page is coming. Actually, I think that I was just looking at that page. I think that's a bug that we have TBD on that page. So we should go and get that updated. There is a sample in the repo, I believe, on using WorkIQ. And another great way, one of the quote unquote challenges with WorkIQ is getting the auth right. And so in practice, I'll just give a shout out to some of the work that the Foundry agent service team has done around something called Toolbox, which will actually make it a lot easier to integrate with WorkIQ in practice because it'll handle a lot of the OBO authentication for you. But there is a sample in the repo, I believe, on WorkIQ. And I think we'll see more there. I think I want to do more there in terms of samples and guidance. Not necessarily any new features on the radar right now, unless there's something you're particularly looking for, Rich, sorry, other than just more guidance of how to use these things together. For those of you that don't know what WorkIQ is, WorkIQ is, you can think of it as kind of an MCP server for Microsoft Graph. I think is the best way to think about it. So like a nice way for your agents to maybe more like an A2A server for Graph might be more accurate, for your agents to talk to Microsoft Graph in a natural language way and get responses and query Graph that way. Okay, any other questions? We have a minute. We can maybe take one more if someone wants to raise their hand or drop something in the chat. I'll see if I missed anything.
I have just a quick request. Well, the shared state in agents when we are working with multiple workflows and agents, it seems to be a little bit complex. I don't know if you could just give us or build some examples where, the output from either a workflow or agent response message, extracting some of these output and you reusing that state, moving from one agent to another or one workflow to another. Yeah, it is a little complex. There are some examples, but I'm just struggling with it. So if there is something that you could do to,
I think that's good feedback, Raj, and I think I probably share the general sentiment. I think it would be really helpful if you could spend like 5 minutes and either open an issue or discussion Just
Okay.
with like your raw notes of like, hey, I found this hard to understand. And I think we can probably do a lot there, certainly around documentation and samples and maybe even some changes. But would love to get some feedback there for sure. Even if it's just kind of raw stream of conscious notes. Don't necessarily need to spend too much time.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay, we are right at time. Thank you everyone for joining, and we will see you again next week.